that Chinese art is known for its paper and silk paintings. A lot of the Chinese art that you see has the brush strokes. It's in black or it's with ink colors. It's, very much sort of like sometimes it could even be calligraphy based. Where Japanese art has various art forms, such as traditional woodblock prints, ink paintings, oil paintings, and calligraphy. Hi, this is Anita from 5 Minutes with Art. Today we want to go over to Asia and explore some of the differences between Japanese and Chinese art. One of the major differences between Japanese and Chinese art is the materials used and how they were executed. Religion played a major role influencing both Japanese and Chinese art. Both countries were Buddhist, but Japan also had Shintoism, which influenced their art, and China had Confucianism and Taoism. So, religion played a role in both of these countries and in their art. So some of the major differences are, and I actually have written quite a long blog on this, well, I'll put a link below, which is what is the major difference between Japanese and Chinese art. And you can go on, you can read some of the different periods of the art here and what the different periods were and why, what the major differences are between the two. But here are the major differences are that Chinese art is known for its paper and silk paintings. A lot of the Chinese art that you see has the brush strokes. It's in black or it's with ink colors. It's, very much sort of like sometimes it could even be calligraphy based. Where Japanese art has various art forms, such as traditional woodblock prints, ink paintings, oil paintings, and calligraphy. Chinese art is usually very complex and is also known to be highly decorative, whereas Japanese art is known to be a bit more simple. And this could go from some of the religion, where, Japanese maybe believe in some of the minimalism. So, some of their art could be a bit more simple. Both Japan and China have a rich and long history, so their art influences change according to different eras. For example, earlier Japanese art may look more similar to Chinese art, but then there was a shift in the 9th century when Japan art takes on a more distinctive Japanese look and feel. And a lot of this is because Japan for a long time was closed, so that it gave Japan a time to be able to really develop its own art form and their own Japanese look and feel for their art. Religion played a significant role in both countries for their art, and both countries used very similar materials for the art, but how they used and executed these materials were different. An example of this is the woodblock prints, where the Japanese woodblock prints are very different and distinctive from the Chinese woodblock prints. So the Japanese really became highly developed in this whole woodblock prints and how they used colors and how they used other things for their woodblock prints. I think one of the major differences, too, if you're going to talk about art in general, is that the Japanese art was actually art that influenced art in Europe more than the Chinese art. And this is because many of the Impressionists became fascinated with particularly the Japanese woodblock prints. We know that Monet had a lot of them. We know that Van Gogh, who was a post-impressionist, that he was fascinated by the Japanese woodblock prints and the Japanese look and the Japanese feel. So the Japanese actually tend to influence a lot more in the West than the Chinese artists did. Even architects like Frank Lloyd Wright was known to be very much influenced by the Japanese woodblock prints and Japanese art. So I would say one of the major differences, too, is that Japanese art had a greater influence upon Western art than Chinese art did, especially during the era of the Impressionist and the post-impressionist and even architects like Frank Lloyd Wright. If you'd like to learn more about this, we have quite an in-depth blog that goes through a lot of the different types of dynasties in China and in Vietnam, and the different types of art mediums that they've used and which one was specialized in. Where the Chinese art really did influence the West would probably be more in their pottery and some of their blue and whites that were brought over to Europe at the time, and some of their porcelain ceramics, their cloisonné, their lacquerware, and some of their different carvings and things like that. Whereas the Japanese, you saw this huge flood coming into Europe of their woodblock prints, which actually really greatly influenced many of the painters of the time. Also, Japanese cartoons has continued to influence many in the many in the West too, with the whole Japanese cartoons and the comics. This is Anita from 5 Minutes with Art. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you've enjoyed this. And if you get a chance, check out our blog to see some of this more in detail, see some of the paintings, pictures, and other things of the different types of art so that you can really see and understand some of the differences. We'd like to thank our team, especially Rico helps put this together. And we'd like to thank you, our listener, for being part of our community. Thank you so much for listening.